I'm really looking forward to this evening's program. I think you're really going to enjoy it. We have a panel who is composed of women who are experts in reinvention, from launching a new career to organizing your personal life. These speakers will give you actionable tips on how to turn over a new leaf in any aspect of your life, and this is great timing since we're coming up on the new year. So happy to have you all here, and thank you for coming. Before we start the program, I have to do a little pitch for New York Wiki. How many members do we have in the audience? Great. So glad to see you all here. And for any of you who aren't a member, we hope you'll join tonight. They're going to actually waive the initiation fee if you sign up tonight. So if you're not a member, go out and take advantage of that. And the registration area is out front. And there's a lot of great benefits when you join New York Wiki, and there are free digital salons and coaching sessions, and there are many great new events coming up. So we hope that you'll visit the website, which is New York Wiki, nywici.org, and you'll see the whole list of upcoming events. So I also, being the marketer that I am, appreciate sponsors, especially, who make events like this possible. So tonight I want to thank two new sponsors of tonight's program. Sarah Kaufman, who is here with Manila.com, which their tagline is everything in one place. So for those of you who are trying to organize all your bill payments and your travel awards and everything, you can do that now in one place, and you can learn more about their service upstairs, and lots of great stuff there. And then also Roberta Mittman and the Park Avenue Center for Wellbeing. We're glad to have you here as well, and I think for those of you who need to get a little centeredness in your life and do some good things for yourself, the Center for Wellbeing is probably right up your alley. So thank you for sponsoring tonight. And then last but not least, there are donations that will be accepted for Occupy Sandy, which is a relief effort to help distribute resources and volunteers to help neighborhoods and people affected by Hurricane Sandy. So that is a really great cause, and hope you'll make some donations there. So now it is my great pleasure to introduce my dear friend Leslie Jane Seymour, and my colleague who has been with Meredith for the last 5 years. It seems like we've known each other for a lot longer.
Feels like
than that. But Leslie is the editor-in-chief of More Magazine, and since she has come to Meredith, More has just done really, really well, and we've been up for a lot of nominations by ASME, and that's all under Leslie's leadership. Leslie is also the director of Meredith's Beauty Center of Excellence, which really works with marketers on how to best access our 100 million women that our brands reach every month. So it's great to have Leslie here. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the microphone over to you.
All right, good to be here. I have a great stage of women here who are going to talk to you about reinvention. Nancy knows every day we go into work, all of us, we have to reinvent ourselves in one way or another. I find reinventing myself can be a weekend deal where I'm, deciding that I'm going to go from being a black thumb to a sudden gardener, which I did in the last 2 years. Or it could be taking a magazine like More and having to totally reinvent it and move it. Some of you may notice, it used to be a magazine just for women over 40. It's now 30, 40, 50, 60. So we are all forced to think of things in a new way, in a different way. But today we're going to talk about how you can reinvent yourself. But it can be big things and small things. It doesn't have to be a major career reinvention. So as we like to say in these tough times out here, sometimes one is given the opportunity to reinvent oneself. Now, it may not have been something you were thinking that you may have had the opportunity to do, but everybody, I think, has to have a reinvention plan in their back pocket today, because that's what the world is all about. So I'm just going to briefly tell you who is here with us today, and after that, then they will all give you, because literally, they all are so accomplished. We will be here all night reading all their accomplishments, so they're going to pick 3 of their favorite ones and describe what those are to you, and then we will start talking about their own reinventions after that. But first, right here, I have Audrey Bolak, who's the founder and president of Audrey Bolak Style Inc. And Audrey and I met, we met at Alley in the Valley. So I've been looking for a reason. I look at her style and what she does, and I said, I finally, when this came together, I was like, oh my God, this is great, perfect for her. Here's Gail Blanky, founder, president, and chief executive officer of Life Designs, LLC. And I didn't know this, but I had already taken a subscription to her little Monday morning pep talk. She gives this wonderful thing. You should pick it up. I didn't even know her, and I found it somehow. I guess I found it.
I just started sending it to you.
No, I've got it.
No, after we met.
Yeah, was that how it came together? So great. That I posted on
You
my
can sign up
website.
for it out there.
You should sign up for it. It's very, very positive, very upbeat. I end up posting it all over my Facebook and my Twitter. And MP Dunleavy, editor-in-chief of Daily Worth, who MP and I have, God, we worked together when it Glamour. And so it goes way, way, way back. And Terry Williams, founder and president of Terry Williams Agency, who's also here with us. So why don't each of you just take about 2 minutes and talk about what your history is, especially focusing on what you do in reinvention. And we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll talk about how you've all reinvented yourselves.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
It's a pleasure to be here. I started sewing when I was 5 years old and got my degree in clothing and textiles from Washington State University, which opened up many different paths for me. So I decided to try everything that my major would include. So I went on to Seattle Central Community College, where I also got an apparel manufacturing degree. And from there, I was hired to do theater. And I went on to work at Yale School of Drama. And after that, I signed up with a company who opened hotels. And from there, became director of wardrobe for Hyatt Hotels and Resorts. And my last big project that I did was Atlantis at Paradise Island, where I was the project manager that ran all from career apparel through stewards, which are the people that do the dishwashing. So I've set up fit centers. I have walked hundreds of people, thousands of people through that process, and in that learned a lot about how people relate to their clothes and what effect it has on them.
I didn't know that there were so many possibilities for wardrobe. Okay. Go ahead, Gail.
I went to Yale Drama School.
Oh,
and I majored in acting. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
So, yeah.
See?
That's one of my reinventions.
Okay.
I'm an executive and life coach, a motivational speaker, and an author. And everything that I do, and no matter in what medium or for what purpose, centers around letting go of the past and moving forward. My tagline is, how good could you make it? So I help people focus not on what's out of their control, which is the part of how bad could it get, which is really what we seem to be embroiled in right now. If we're really, really bad, what would that look like? But rather taking control of what you can, which is considerable really, and asking how good could you make it?
All right, MP.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name again is MP Dunleavy, and I'm the editor-in-chief of DailyWorth.com. We're a daily email for women about money and life, and I definitely encourage you to sign up for it. I did not intend to go into the money business, so that'll be one of my reinventions. But I fell into it some years ago as a journalist, and for a long time I was a freelance writer, and I wrote a column for the New York Times called The Cost of Living. I wrote for MSN Money. I created a group called The Women in Red. It was about women getting out of debt at that time. And now I've kind of morphed into a new role for me, an editorial role, and it's very exciting to be in a more take charge capacity. Writers are not often in that so that has been a big reinvention as well that I'll talk about later. But, you know, throughout all of this, finances have played a very big role in everything that I write about, because I wrote about personal finance, but also because I like to write about women, and I like to write about many of the things that I've had to deal with over time. So that's where I'm at.
All right.
Hi, everybody. I'm Terry, and let's see. I think I've always been a very, very sensitive person. And I think it's what has driven me throughout my life and throughout my career. I feel everything. And when I meet people, I really want to know how you're doing. Like, I really want to know how you're doing, because behind the mask that we all wear, you know we wear masks, right? Okay. So that's, I would say that that's the thread that goes through my life. I'm a social worker. Thought I was going to get out of it when I got into business, but I will be one till the day that I die. I consider myself a wounded healer. And I just believe in us treating one another the exact same way. I believe that everybody is somebody, and that you block blessings sometimes if you think that there's somebody who's better than somebody else. Because I've seen a lot of people lose out when they felt like they were better than other people. But, you know, I went to nursery school, little Jewish nursery school in Mount Vernon. There's only 2 black people there, because I had the greatest experience there. And then I went to, went to Brandeis University. I majored in psychology and sociology, and I wanted to get a doctorate in clinical psychology, but you had to master statistics, and I took it twice, and I got a D twice. And it was a 5-year program, so I was just like, screw it, let me just try to figure out something else. And I saw that
Statistics.
Right. So I found that social work was a viable alternative. It was a 2-year program, and so that's how I got, to get my training. And I'm very happy to be here, and I actually want to thank, I don't know where she is, Dale. Just thank you for thinking about me for tonight. I appreciate that.
So why don't we all just go around one last time and talk about what's your encounter with reinvention, either yourself or what you've seen in other women or help other women too.
I think what's really interesting, and what I do is I deal with a lot of women who are going through changes and processing information. And one of the stories I wanted to share was I went to a networking breakfast with a woman who is a sports nutritionist. She's considered really high in that field. And as we got into the breakfast, she sat down, she looked at me and she said, I don't look like any of these women. They're all dressed in suits, and I'm wearing, something a little bit more casual. And I was like, but that's your truth. That's who you are. You're not one of these women who works in an office or in that type of situation. You have to be able to move to get up and be who you are. And so you should dress in that way that says that, so that you can create a memory in these people's minds, so they will come back and remember who you are and recognize you for who you are. And so I think that when you're reinventing yourself, like Terry was saying, is that you kind of have to step and look behind the mask a little bit of instead of sort of trying to figure out who you're supposed to be, just be who you are and take that out and present it to the world, because that's who they want to hire is you. They don't want to hire somebody they don't know. They want to see and experience you. So that's
All right, Dale?
Well, I believe we've just entered the age of reinvention. And it's really how it's supposed to be. One of the books I wrote was called Between Trapezes, and the whole idea of that is you have to let go of the old trapeze before you can reach out and grasp the new one, because you can't hold on to 2 of them at the same time, right?
In Buddhism, it has a name. I think it's called Bardo.
Well,
Space between. It's like the
the space between turns out to be the best of all possible things. It's when you don't know. It's not when you do know, it's when you don't know. It's when you don't know that absolutely everything is possible. So I've reinvented myself a number of times. I was at Avon for 20 years and was head of global communications, advertising, public relations, etc. Created the Avon Breast Cancer Awareness Crusade, and created a division for Avon called Life Designs. And it was for women who wanted to create a beautiful life in all its aspects. And we did workshops, and then an awful lot of people came to them. I fell in love with the whole concept and decided that it was what I was meant to do, so I acquired the division from Avon, and it went from Avon Life Designs to Gail Blanky's Life Designs, and expanded the concept, etc., and made a business out of it. And out of that business, out of those encounters, out of those workshops, out of the coaching came my books. And I'll tell you one example of a story that a woman who came to one of our workshops, she decided, one of the things we do is we say, okay, if anything were possible, what would you love to make happen? I mean, if anything were possible. And she said, I want to be a lawyer. I always wanted to be a lawyer, but I never told anybody. I want to be a lawyer, and I want to be an entertainment lawyer.
Oh my.
I can see the whole thing. I know it. And so so we designed in these workshops exactly how you're going to make that happen, what you're going to let go of to make that happen. Like it's too late or whatever. So she went home and she said to her husband, I've decided I'm going to go to law school. I'm going to become a lawyer. And he said, are you nuts? Do you realize how old you'll be when you graduate? 50.
Oh, that's
And
young.
she said,
You're cute.
I'm going to be 50 anyway. She went to law school. She is an entertainment lawyer, a very good one right now.
Oh, so fabulous.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's always possible. Always.
Awesome. Okay. Top that one. We're going to play top this. Okay.
That's a great story. Yeah, I love that image. It's so funny that you mentioned the between two trapezes, because I was going through a hard time at one point, and a friend sent me this article. I think it was from Yoga Journal or something, and it was about this Buddhist. I'm not a Buddhist, but it was a very interesting concept. This idea of bardo, this idea of the between space being so valuable. And I think that is a really powerful moment of reinvention when you aren't sure. And you aren't exactly sure what you're morphing into. So
That's where the real kick is.
yeah, exactly. So I've been thinking about the difference between invention and reinvention. Because I was thinking, well, I could talk about reinventing myself as such, but then I was like, but it was really an invention almost. Like, it's hard to separate out those two things sometimes. So when I think one of my most powerful reinventions was when I became a financial writer. But it was really an invention because it hadn't existed before for me. I mean, I was the least likely candidate of anybody to write about money. I could barely, at that time, balance a checkbook. But I had an opportunity to throw my hat. I was a writer, and as Leslie said, we knew each other from Glamour. At this point, I'd moved on from Glamour. I was freelancing. I was kind of focusing on like health and psychology and like fun stuff like that. And a friend of mine, but I needed to make some money. And I also had it in my head, and I think this is a part of one's reinvention, is that maybe the seed is there for a while. And so I had it in my head that I wanted to get my financial act together. I had a mother who was very good with money, and she tried. She really tried. And then a friend of mine called me one day and said, MSN Money needs somebody to write about money. And I'm like, MSN Money? Like, they have all these investing guys and Wall Street guys, and I'm like, no. And she's like, no, they want someone like you. And I'm like,
Oh, so funny, aren't they?
so funny. And, but then it turned out, indeed, they wanted somebody to write about money from a down-to-earth perspective. And I was like, well, I can do that. So I did. Now, I took it as a job. I took it as a gig. I'm like, okay, I can do anything. I will write about money. I'll write about, the circus if somebody tells me. So I started to write about money, but that was when I discovered that I was actually good at money. Lo and behold, I was my mother's daughter, after all. And I slowly began to get my life together financially. And that was when I I guess I invented or reinvented myself again, you know, in a sense, as like no longer the ingenue, no longer, you know, full of naivete and, oh gosh, what's a wrong IRA? I don't know. And I really began to take control, and I became much more of a money expert. And so I think there are these stages of looking at this in hindsight, I think there are these stages of reinvention that we go through. And I think it's very exciting for me right now, because just when I kind of thought that I was sort of done with, like, well, I've been writing about money for a really long time, and then this editorial job, you know, a job as an editor, no longer a writer, came along. So that's another thing I think that we should all bear in mind is you never know when you're going to turn another corner, right? Mary?
I started out as a social worker, and after a year or two of doing that, I realized that I wanted to make some money in this lifetime legally, and it wasn't really going to happen in social work. And so, and I happened to come across an article about public relations, and I didn't know anyone in the field, and so it sounded intriguing to me, so I took a couple of courses, and then I just really decided that that's what I wanted to do. And I did a lot of different things. I was I was an assistant producer on a radio show, just trying to get as many different experiences that I could, so that I could, you know, just do something else. And I just think, and so one thing to that point I want to say is that relationships are everything. Everything. And if there are 100 people out there who want what you want, and who do what you do, and have the exact same credentials, then you got to figure out what it is that you're going to do that's going to make you special, in whatever way that is. And that's where it comes in, is just how people are doing. You know, sometimes when you exact business with one another, then it's like, you know, I didn't even ask this person how they were doing. But although when you ask somebody, how are you, those are the 3 hardest words in the English language to answer, honestly, because we usually lie and say we're fine. So I got into the PR business, and, you know, just landed. I mean, it's a long story we don't have time to get into, but Eddie Murphy was my first client. And he was the biggest box office draw at the time. And it was through a relationship that, and this is where I say that everybody's important. I was on a yacht, someone's birthday party, and Eddie was there with 2 friends. And what I know is that most people always pay attention to the celebrity. That's who they want to meet. So they disregard and ultimately disrespect the person that is with them, and that's when you really lose out. So that's what I mean, that everybody is somebody. You never know where it's going to come from. And so I just built this really incredible public relations business. And so I think it's really, you know, as I said, focusing on the little things and listening to your gut, because it will tell you what it is that you want to do. Like, am I really happy with what it is I'm doing? And then I wanted to share with you that there was an article in the New York Times just in the last 2 weeks about how psychotherapists are needing, did some of you see it? About how psychotherapists are having to try to rebrand themselves because people aren't coming to them because they are psychotherapists. So you call yourself you could call yourself a life coach, or you could, instead of being vague about it, say, well, like, are you having an issue with something? Are you not finding what it is that you're really called to do? And if you brand yourself with the issues that you know people are dealing with, then more people will come to you. So I wanted to mention that.
All right, so my takeaway is the next yacht I'm on, I'm going for the friends, not the celebrity, right? Ignore the celebrity, go for the friends.
No, because the thing is, if you are not nice to those people, when the celebrity gets home, he's saying, what do you think about Terry? Well, if Terry didn't say anything to you, didn't even acknowledge you, you know.
Very good. So I gather somebody was it the friend who got you? You were chatting up the friend, and the friend.
I chatted up the friends, yes, and then they were going after this birthday party. Eddie was going to be performing somewhere. So guess who invited me?
The friend.
The friends paid my tab and everything. And then the same guy, whenever Eddie was shooting a movie in New York, they would give me a call so I could come hang out at the set. And so that's how the relationship unfolded.
All right, to hell with celebrities. We've got a whole new world order. We've just reinvented the world order. So let's talk about the hardest thing about reinvention. I know you're talking about Bardot as this great moment between the trapeze. I have a feeling I'm the person who's holding on to both sides. Holy crap, I can't let go of either one, okay?
Yeah.
So for the people out here who are like caught, they can't let go of one, they want to grab the other one, what's the hardest thing about reinvention? Because it is hard. And what is the fear all about? Because, you know, we do a lot of talk about fear, about reinvention and more, and everybody will tell you. Everybody's scared to death, and they often say, if I had known what I know now, looking back, I would never have done it. So you can just jump in, whoever wants to talk about fear.
I think that if you don't get up every morning with butterflies in your stomach, I think it means that you're going through life being pathetic or you're flatlining. Because
Boy, I'm in trouble. I got talking to the wrong people. Okay, good.
no, really, because it's like every day I've got knots in my stomach, and I just say, thank you, God. Because when you have them, it means that you're getting ready to elevate, getting ready to reinvent yourself, get anything new. So I just say thank you for the butterflies. They feel horrible, they make you feel like you want to vomit. But it really does mean that you're about to challenge yourself and take your game to the next level.
I've actually heard that before, exactly that, which is the butterflies in your stomach are a good thing.
Yes.
That means you are reaching and you're stretching.
Right.
I'd like to add to that, a woman I was working with said, when she first called me, she said, okay, Gail, I'm holding on to this trapeze. It's on fire, it's in flames.
That was me.
My hands are burning and I can't seem to let go of it. And the reason is because it is scary, because it's the unknown. And what we forget is that life is supposed to be an adventure. An adventure, by its very nature, means you don't know how it's going to turn out. Otherwise, it wouldn't be an adventure, right? And so it's the risk that is where the thrill is. I got to know trapeze artists really well when I wrote this book. And they have some wonderful sayings. One is, you can't grow if you don't let go. This has become my mantra. Another is, the greatest flyers are always the greatest fallers.
Ooh, I like that.
Another is, trapeze artists never confuse falling with failing. And finally, every trapeze artist has a catcher. A catcher is the person. Who is your catcher is the question. And whose catcher are you? The catcher is the person who gets it about you. In our case, buys our dream, knows what we're actually made of. And will take your hands at exactly the right moment, not a moment too soon or a moment too late. Exactly the right moment. They will be there for you. And they say, let the catcher do the catching. Don't try to catch the catcher. Let the catcher do the catching. So you might want to think of who's your catcher, who are your catchers, and whose catcher are you.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just thought about something. When I was working as a social worker at New York Hospital, and I felt really called to do something else, and I went to work with this brand new organization, and I remember I just remember, the reason it's a little bit emotional for me is because my mother has Alzheimer's, and she's really declining, but it was my mom who said to me, because I was leaving the security of New York Hospital to work for this new organization, and she said, you go follow your heart, and if you need a net, I will be there. You know, and that's what gave me that extra little bit of confidence.
We all have to be each other's net, I guess. That's
Yeah.
the other thing we're going to have to
Yeah.
get through. It's a really lovely thing to think about. We're all going to meet at Chelsea Piers next week. And Gail will give us trapeze lessons.
I wanted to add another thing about the fear, because I've been thinking a lot about, even though, I'm ensconced in this great job right now, I mean, it is a crazy time, it is a crazy economy. I think we're all living with a degree of fear.
Yes.
So, one of the things I've been thinking about is when you're in a place of unhappiness, because we've all also been in really unhappy places. So let's trapeze that's on fire. And it's a place that's not working, whatever it is. And, you know, and I can remember having these moments where, you know, on the brink of moving toward that reinvention moment, where I was able to say, oh, like, it could be better. Like, you know, you're afraid of the unknown, you're afraid of in many cases, the financial uncertainty. I mean, there are a lot of real or imagined penalties that we might pay when we reinvent. But, you know, to have that sense of, when I'm so unhappy, like I remember one time a friend saying to me at one of these transitional periods, and she said, you've been so unhappy for so long. And I was like, oh, and it suddenly, it was that, I don't know if that was the catcher or the pusher. I mean, I was like, I was like, ooh, yeah. So that,
So maybe it's enough.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then you say, wow, it can be better.
But don't you think one of the things we're afraid of is, failing is a big word, but we're afraid of like not looking good. You know, what if I
The
try
outside
this
world.
thing and I look like a jerk?
Right.
You know, and so it's better to just stick with what I've got. And quite honestly, that's why I loosen people up by inviting them to go home, and I'm inviting you to go home and throw out 50 things, which is my last book. And it could be just, you know, when you're hauling your summer clothes and your winter clothes and different, and you come across stuff you haven't worn for 30 years or 5, donate it, you know, get rid of it. So I ask everybody to do that, and when you get warmed up with the physical stuff, you get into the emotional stuff. The old fears, the grudges, the anger, being right about how wrong it is. And just one quick story, I tell everybody to go home and throw out 50 things, then they have to bring me their list of 50 things, and sometimes it's like a stand-up comedy routine, really, when they tell me what it is. But this one woman, I said, so, okay, what'd you throw out? She said, let's talk about something else. I said, no, seriously, you have to tell me what. She said, okay, fine. I went home, and I threw out
My husband.
the guy that I've been living with for 11 years. Because he was what was weighing me down and holding me back. I call it life flat. He was the life flat in my life. And then she looked all worried. She said, but do I still have to throw out 49? I said, that'll do it for this week. Next week, you gotta get back. Here is a big issue. You gotta have a sense of humor.
And are we thinking about throwing out a husband?
What did you know?
I know, she just...
But I'm a big tosser, and my husband actually, when my 2 kids left, one left for college, one left for boarding schools about 4 years ago, I literally cleaned out the whole house. We had like 26 bags of just junk, and my husband stood there and he said, if you go any further, I'm afraid I'm the next one. I was like, you are. Shape up. You're in the bag. That's where that came from. So what about the naysayers? When we talk about reinvention to most people, what they talk about is everybody's a naysayer. You can't do it. And most of the issues end up being about the naysayer themselves, which is, you're my best friend. If you reinvent, holy crap, now what am I going to do? Because I'm going to be left in the dust. So it's better if I keep you here being miserable with me, because now we have this whole miserable game going. So what about that? I mean, the naysayers who say, I can't do it, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I'm too busy, I'm having a child, I'm having a nervous breakdown.
I think that's the fear talking. I think that, you know, we have to sort of surpass that hurdle of people who are saying you can't do it and muster up our courage and say, yes, I can. I was director of wardrobe for Hyatt Hotels and Resorts, and I was just like, I am not happy. This is not what I'm not an operations person. I get very sad the day they say I have to write a schedule. I'm an opener. I have to move. I remember my mother, when I had my tonsils out as a little girl, she's like, my God, it's like having Tony the Tiger in bed. I was like, I'm going to scream if I don't get to go outside and play. Like, I have to get up and move. I have to run around. I have to see people. I have to go see what everybody's doing. So when people are like, no, you have to keep this good job, it's secure, it's this, it's that, it was like, it doesn't fit for me. It doesn't fit. I remember going in to see a man at a staffing agency because I wanted to hire some people. And he kept talking about the fact that you need to find people that fit. And I was looking at him and I'm like, your shirt collar doesn't fit. That's bugging me. You don't find people who fit, you just find people who fill the position. I want somebody who fits.
You know, maybe one of the things that we have to let go of is typecasting ourselves. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who have said, you know, I'm just not the type person who can, this is a big one, get up in front of people and talk. I'm just not the type of person who, you know, will take chances. I'm the type of person, and I think, what is this, just written on your birth certificate? You know, where is this written? And so we negatively typecast ourselves needlessly. So one of the things you might want to think of letting go of is this rigid type that you think of, because you can be any type you want. You get to make it up. You get to make it up. Sure, we have certain tendencies, but there's plenty of data out there that says that with repeated behavior, you can in fact become good at math or, you know, whatever it is. So you want to let go of typecasting. Remember that, and thinking that it has to be hard. Let go of making stuff hard. Remember that movie, A League of Their Own? Tom Hanks playing the manager of the women's softball team, and Gina Davis was the pitcher, and she said, okay, that's it, I quit. And he says, Tom Hanks, you know, perfect, there's no quitting in baseball. Why would you quit anyway? And she said, it just got too hard. And he says, hard? It's supposed to be hard. If it weren't hard, somebody would already have done it. So it's okay. Just don't make it harder than it needs to be.
Okay, anybody else?
I was just going to say something really rather simple, that when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired,
Yes.
then you will, and because I know someone now who's very unhappy. Every time I turn around, she's unhappy, and I'm just saying, because I'm getting sick and tired of hearing it, right? So I just, but that's what it is. I mean, it's happened to me many times when I get sick. If you're sick and tired of seeing or doing something, then you'll leave.
Now, before we go to questions, I'd asked everybody to come with 2 pointers, 2 tips that each one of you would give to the audience to take away. So we have some concrete thoughts. Do you want to start off?
Yeah, I think one of my tips is get a great headshot. Don't skimp on that. Really go find a headshot that you feel really puts you out there so that people connect with you, because we're now a 24/7 world where we're visible all the time. And the other thing is that it's not so much about the clothing, but how you take care of yourself. So how you maintain yourself. It's just like if you had a racehorse, you don't run them until they're dropping over. You feed them well, you exercise, you keep them healthy so that they can perform. Because I think one of the things, going back to fear too, is like, if we deplete ourselves so much, fear can become a much bigger obstacle than it really is. Kind of feel the fear and do it anyway.
Well, I like that. Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree with that.
All right.
Okay, 2 things. One is in terms of being unique and one of a kind. And I remember coming home from a birthday party when I was 9 years old, crying my heart out, and my mom said, "What's wrong?" And I said, sobbing, "Susie Wright doesn't like me." And she said, "How do you know?" And I said, "Because everybody's telling me." And I was really upset, and she was holding me. She said, "Isn't that interesting? Because I can only think of one thing that everybody likes, and that's water, because it has no taste. Do you want to be like water?
Good. Love it.
Oh, yeah.
Or do you want to be like hot chocolate or lemonade or champagne?" I said, having tasted it once. So, I mean, the fact of the matter is that the world belongs not to the one who fits in, but to the one who stands out in absolutely every single arena. Okay, so that's number one. As my daughter says to me whenever I give a speech or anything, "Do you, Mom?" which is what we were talking about at the very beginning. Second thing is, it takes courage. It takes courage to reinvent. It takes courage to let go. It takes courage to be unique. And part of what I believe is that most of us don't realize how powerful we already are. So I ask everyone to make a list of the defining moments in their lives. And I recommend it to you. Go back to when you were little, go back to yesterday. The defining moment is the moment when you found something in yourself you didn't know you had, and you pulled it out. It could be a moment when you said, "Yes, I am," or "No, I'm not." It's not when you cured world hunger. It's when you fell down and got back up again. Make a list of those moments, share them with somebody you love, ask them what theirs are. We do it every Christmas Eve in our family with our daughters. And then you talk about a moment and you ask yourself, God, if I could do that, what else could I do? And it gives you the energy, optimism, and the courage to take hold of whatever this dream is of yours right now and move forward. Wow.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to follow that, but you have to. Sorry. Sorry about the seating.
But you know what?
It's great, it's inspiring. Okay, yeah. I'm going to leave you with two sort of practical financial tips, because I think when you're reinventing yourself or when you're in a period of transition, one of the things that comes up very quickly is money. And it either comes from within you or from somebody else, one of the naysayers, somebody saying, how are you going to afford that? Or, do you have money to do that? It's like this kind of like, money just comes up as this powerful deterrent. So, one, brace yourself for that. But don't believe it. You know what I mean? It's like, don't believe the bad press in your head. If somebody comes at you with some negative financial reason, just take that as a sign of their fear for you. If it comes out of you, take it as a sign of your own fear. But it's not necessarily about a truth that you won't have money, or you can't afford it, or it's impossible to do on the budget that you have. Rarely is money the obstacle that we think it is. Believe me.
I'll second that motion. We write about that a lot.
Yeah.
It's true. Go ahead.
And then the second practical tip that I would put out there, financially speaking, is that you can probably, and speaking as somebody who's been through it, you can probably do more with your own financial life than you think you can. If there's one thing that our research has shown at Daily Worth, and a lot of the financial research that I've read on women and money, is that men chronically overestimate what they can do with money, and women chronically underestimate what they can do with money. So take heart and have faith that if there's something that you need to do financially, you can probably get it done. And if you have to ask for help, that's awesome.
Men are chronic overestimators.
I don't need directions.
In everything. So let's just go from there. Okay, Terry?
I just wanted to say a couple of things very quickly. One is, when you mentioned to the point that it was going to be a hard act to follow Yale, I just remember once that I was speaking to it was like 2,000 kids in 2,000 kids in somewhere in Canada that I was supposed to speak to. So I read this book for teenagers, and so they asked a young woman who's a really incredible poet to open for me, right? And she just blew the room away. The kids were standing up, clapping, cheering. I was like, oh, shit.
Oh, no. I've had that happen. Yeah.
But you know what I said to myself? You know what? Everybody has their own thing.
Yes.
And that I know that I have something very special to contribute. And so I just think about that. When you said, do you, it's just be and do you. You have something unique and special. And the other thing that I wanted to say is sometimes when you go through the fire and you come out on the other side, that's when you really find out what it is you're supposed to do. I'm really known these days as a mental health advocate. I suffer from very debilitating depression. About 8 years ago, I had a breakdown, and long story short, I was asked to share my story in Essence Magazine. 10,000 people responded to it, which then led to a book called Black Pain. It just looks like you're not hurting. And it is transformed not just my life, but so many other people, because it's something that we just don't talk about. And that's all.
Okay, so
I know, because we have to do Q&A, right?
we'd love to have questions from anybody. We put up there's two microphones there, so because we'd like to hear you. So I would hope that someone, come on, you are not a shy group. Come right up to the microphone. These are women in communications. I want a long line. Long line.
I don't have a question. I have more of a comment. So I had a very long period of reinvention. Like I went to college for journalism, wanted to work at a magazine, I wanted to be an editor. And then I was learning that that's probably not the route to go. I should probably do something different. So I bounced around and did a ton of things. I did public relations, I did event production, I worked in restaurants, I worked in nightlife, I had a blog, I got nominated. I did all these things. My mother was like, you really need to pick a job, get health insurance, get off my couch, like we need to get it together. And I was like, I'm liking to do things, I need to find something else. And then I ended up in social media, which is cool because while I was looking for something that hadn't been invented yet. So when I was in college, we had Facebook, and Twitter, and all those things. And that's what I do now, and I love it. Like my job, I'm the director of digital for Lisa Roberts, so I get to read about fitness all day and help people on their fitness journeys. And I sit on Facebook all day. It's a great job. And through my projects, I actually have hired or worked with everybody from the other stages of my life, which is really pretty cool. Like I just hired one of my DJ friends to make a playlist for us when I was in nightlife. We're doing like an event thing when I worked in events. And it's just really cool. So I think to my, to the dismay of my mother, I really just hung in there and I knew I was looking for something. And when I found it, I know. And I hadn't found it yet. It didn't exist.
How many years out of school are you when you found it?
I think, what, 3 or 4?
Oh, that's not
Not too bad. For how,
That's pretty much at 3 years old.
it feels like, it feels, oh, I left out the most tragic part because I tried to forget about it. I went to law school too.
Oh,
So, and that was expensive to not actually finish. So I did a lot of different things. Just, when you're trying to save and get it together, it's hard to bounce from job to job. And then every job you get to thinks you're not going to stay. And it's like, if I don't like what I'm doing, I'm not going to stay. I told my mother, I said, there are too many things that I can't control that will make me unhappy. The things that I can control, I'm going to. And I just never stayed at any job that I wasn't happy with.
Bravo.
Great.
All right, another question?
Well, I'm very happy to comment you because my question was kind of just answered.
Go talk to her.
I know, maybe we can connect afterwards. But I was going back to the whole idea about trapeze because that seems to be a recurring sort of idea that we've been talking about a lot, and I think it's really relevant. But my question is, what happens if you're holding onto one trapeze and then you have about 40 different ones that are swinging at you at the same time with different people ready to catch you, and you're going, oh, do I jump for that one? Do I let go? Oh, crap, no, do I go for this one? Which one do you choose? Because in a moment of reinvention, you don't always know where it's going to lead, and you don't know which opportunity to grab at first, especially, and I notice this about a lot of people that I speak to at these amazing events, that people are involved in so many different things and interested in so many different things, and I know I am as well, and I have a very varied background also. And so right now I'm looking for my sort of next step. I'm kind of like not knowing which trapeze to grab onto. So my question is, how do you know, and how did you guys choose?
Follow your instincts. Trust them. And that gut thing inside you that thinks, yeah, but I really love this. You can't really make a mistake. My father told me that when I was very young. That I was worried. I was so worried that I was going to choose the wrong school, choose the wrong, do whatever. And he said, almost nothing is irrevocable.
And today, don't you think, I think, the workplace has changed so much that you are probably going to have, the days of, picking one career and sticking with it forever. I mean, this is going to be history. You're going to write stories about that. And you're going to go, really? People actually stayed at a job for 30 years. What a boring life, right? Well, you guys are going to have many, many jobs, and you're going to go to many different, I bet you're going to go lateral. And when I was growing up, we were told not to go lateral. You guys are going to go lateral into many different things, and then you're going to go up the ladder like this, and then you're going to go lateral again, and then go up, and then maybe you'll go down. It is, what they call it is a lattice, if you want to talk about a different structure. It's not a straight ladder. So I think you can move around, take a couple of different things. I mean, I think if you take them every 6 months, people look at you strangely. But if you stay there for a year or two, what do you guys think?
Well, yeah, I
A
think
little
go and,
commitment, yeah.
yeah, a little
Some
commitment.
commitment.
Gain some knowledge, some experience, make some relationships, find out what there is. I think, it's the same thing to echo what Gail said. My father, at a time of crisis, one time I was like, I don't know what to do. And he said, just make a decision. I was like, but what if it's wrong? And he's like, make another.
Right.
He said, don't stall, just keep making decisions.
It's really good.
Don't go into that void and stick there.
I think we all think that it's got to be the big decision. Terry,
I
yeah?
was just going to say, not to minimize, listening to your own inner voice, following your gut, because it always tells you what to do. I had a really harrowing experience with someone who, I knew something was wrong, but I wasn't strong enough to really listen to my inner voice. So I pray for that every day, to not allow things to crowd that out. But I just can't say that enough. Just to really listen to that inner voice.
Gut is something I've heard. What we used to do, I've done 8 reinvention conventions around the country, and it will be from, executives in Hollywood all the way down to people like us. Inevitably, they will say, trust your gut. Whatever that thing is that says to you, do it now.
Or don't do it.
Right. It is all people say, trust your gut. Number one thing.
Or flip a coin, and the coin can be air, you'll know what it is that you want. She'll have a wish for the way it looks.
That's funny. That's funny.
Okay.
Hi, this is a transition question. Sometimes we know what to do. For example, I'm 2 to 3 years into a transition from a sole proprietor marketing communications life into financial services and insurance. And I understand what the common threads are. It makes sense to me, but I'm not succeeding at communicating that to people who know me in my other old life. Do you find that you lose people, or how do you help other people see what you've seen when you grab something new?
Well, if you lose them, they're supposed to be gone.
Okay.
That's one thing I would say.
I think it's really important to have the people that support you around you. And, that's their issues if they can't hear what it means to you.
That was what I wanted to hear someone say.
Yeah,
People
want to hold you back.
it, and it's really very appealing.
People would like you to stay the way you were so that they can stay the way they are.
That's right.
And so,
A lot of that.
so
I'm
if you're
messing
having
with
fun
that.
and as you're reinventing yourself and
Right.
getting through the tough times and whatever, they might be inspired by you to maybe give it a shot themselves. So you don't ever want to play small in order not to upset somebody else.
I just was thinking, I remember very vividly when I started my PR company, that a guy that I didn't know that well actually said to me, that's not going to fly. And I remember right now how I felt when somebody just poo-pooed it, like, how did you say that?
Or you, yeah.
Yeah. That was just really weird. I just had to share that. Oh, another thing that I did reinvent, can I just mention this?
Yeah, go.
I colored my hair. It's a little reinvention. But I did,
Color it or cut it off?
well, you know what, that's funny.
Is that a while ago?
No, I colored it, because at someone's suggestion, because I never, ever, ever in a million years would have ever done it. But I did cut my hair short about 25 years ago because I had a perm and was taking my hair out. And then I put a scarf on my head one day, and my hair was just all flat, and I was like, it doesn't look half bad like this. But that was a major reinvention, to chop off my hair like that, yeah.
Anybody else have any questions?
I'm Julie Livingston, and I'm co-VP of membership for New York Wiki, but my day job is in sales at a PR agency called Child's Play Communications. And it's been very inspiring to hear all of your stories, and I was hoping that you could share a little bit more about some of the transitions, when you're reaching for the trapeze, because I've been through a lot myself, going from being in public relations to being on the sales side for an agency. And so many people would say to me, how are you going to do that? You've never done that before. And I just had, it was hard. I had to keep searching for the right place, for the right spot, the right person who saw that in me and put out the hand. And I think a lot of the women here might like to hear some more stories of that, of going through those transitions that could be really painful. And, how do you hold on to your convictions and the belief in yourself?
That's a good question. I would just say that, no, I'll come back to you.
I'm sorry, what's the story about Sam Walton and how many businesses he started, 30-something before one worked? And, and men are really good at this. They say, okay, wait, all right, so that didn't work. Okay, I'll try it this way. Okay, fine, I'll do this. And women have a tendency to think if it failed, I failed.
It was my fault.
Yeah, I screwed it up. and men just, it's like missing the catch or whatever in sports. That's why I believe so strongly in team sports for girls. Because they just, okay, so all right, I blew that and everybody's mad at me, but they'll get over it. And they do get over it. And the next time they do brilliantly. So I think part of it gets back to not taking ourselves so very seriously. Not that we're going to be in a position of not giving a rip. I don't mean that. But that we make such a big deal out of every little bit and piece so that when it falls apart, it seems almost overwhelming to us. So part of it is perspective. Keeping things in perspective and keeping your eye on what drop dead good would look for you. And the rest of the stuff, there's going to be stuff.
One of the things I learned in graduate school recently was something called being in flow. And it was something I've experienced a lot being a creative person. It's when you're in the zone, when you sort of tune everything out. And I didn't know what it was called. But now that I do, it's helped me really focus on finding something where I can be in flow a lot of the time.
And I think that's practicing. It's like if you only go that once, and you miss, it is a bigger deal.
Yeah,
if you keep
that's a good point.
going, because we're behavioral creatures, so we end up getting kind of set in our patterns or that's that comfort zone. But if you kind of, you keep practicing or you make a game out of it or it becomes a challenge to see like how many problems can I solve today? Or what problems do I need to solve today?
Can I just,
Yeah, and then we have time for one more question.
what I wanted to share with you, all of you, is, chicken soup for the soul? The two guys, I can't remember their names right now, but they were. Thank you.
Candy Crowley, right in the audience. Okay.
It's that you must never give up, because they were rejected 49 times. 49 times before, excuse me?
Not unusual.
So, and then, but the company that then picked them up, they were on the verge of bankruptcy. And so I just share that because it's something that I draw on a lot. It's like, if you want something badly enough, you believe in it, you must never, ever, ever give up. 49 times.
Stockett, who wrote the
Yes. Yes.
was, I think,
The help.
65
Yes.
times.
60 rejections.
Yeah, 60
60?
rejections
Yes.
before she got a yes, and she was being interviewed by Katie Couric, and Katie said, so would you like to say to those publishers who rejected you? And she said, thank you, because I just kept getting a little bit better and more convinced that this was going to work. And she was just lovely. Yeah, I mean, never waste a no.
No. Okay, one last question.
My question is about naysayers and a different version of naysayers. So when you're trying to reinvent yourself, you're sort of insecure about which way to go. And I find that there are certain people that are really on my side, but they think they know. And because I don't know, So just for instance, tonight I was deciding between coming here and going to a different event. And I spent like, should I and very like unsure. And
You made the right choice. You must have followed your gut. You grabbed the right trapeze.
but I find, that I gravitate towards strong women who have answers for me. And it's not like they're telling me I can't do something, but they're telling me how to do it. And because I don't know how to do it, I often come up against them telling me, and I know their way isn't right for me. But I get into this sort of tension thing where I don't want to reject the person because, they're good people. But it's a hard thing. And I think it comes from, I had a parent who did that to me. So I keep finding these kinds of people. Anyway,
But you can listen to people without doing what they're recommending. And you can be polite and listen and appreciate, they're caring enough to give you some ideas. You don't have to follow it. And you don't have to explain. I think, again, as women, we have a tendency to over-explain everything. Another thing my father said, don't explain everything, just do it,
You like a man.
Yeah. Does that help at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you to all our great panelists.
Echo that. I'm Susan Schultz. I'm the foundation president for New York Wiki, and thank you all so much. Just inspiring advice, really practical advice. What I wanted to say to everybody, because I want to make sure you are aware of it, I think we all are now thinking about ways to have our new year and our new yous. And so I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of the New York Wiki Foundation Member Empowerment Grant, because MP mentioned that sometimes financial things can be that block for you, but the foundation now has a new fund that is meant to award women who have been members of New York Wiki for 3 years or more, who want to do things to reinvent themselves, whether it's schooling or other ways that you want to build skills, and yet maybe you just don't have the financial resources to pay for those. So we'll be accepting applications starting January 30th. The new application isn't up on the site yet because we're going to be automating it and making it simpler. But you can go to the website there's a foundation tab, and then under it there's empowerment grants, and you can read what the parameters are. And essentially, we talked about a catcher. The application involves having another New York Wiki member recommend you. So think about who your catcher is and have that person be your recommender. I just really want to encourage everybody to consider applying for the grant. We were able to award 3 grants this past May at the annual meeting. We gave $2,000 each to 3 New York Wiki members who have been able to take coursework to reinvent themselves. And soon, in the next couple, I guess in about a month or so, we'll have some follow-up stories in our newsletter about where they are now and what they're using, how they're using these new skills and what they've learned in their classes. But again, I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of this. And in case maybe you're not somebody who would want to apply for it, encourage somebody else to apply for it. Or consider making a donation to the fund, because I would really love, on behalf of the foundation, we, as I said, gave out 3 grants this past year. We would love to be able to give 5, maybe 6 this coming May. So even a donation of $25 could be so helpful to support your fellow members of New York Wiki. So again, there's a tab within the empowerment grant area on the website where you can easily donate, or you can also donate here tonight. And the final thing I want to leave you with to bring us back to the panel is that Terry and Gail are selling books, and they will sign them for you. And to me, I always think this time of year to give a book as a Christmas gift, so that the amazing advice of these women, you could give it to somebody else who wasn't able to be here tonight. That's a great, I don't know how much your books are, but that's a great $30 in my opinion. So consider purchasing one of their books on the way out. And otherwise, I would just say cheers to everyone for reinventing yourself in 2013. Thank you.